Hey, and welcome back to Slick Willy Fly. So today we're gonna do a Slick Willy crustacean. This is basically a crab fly without claws. I think that when I'm fishing for redfish or bonefish or any inshore predatory type fish, crustaceans, shrimp, crabs, they just will eat them. And I think that if you present it, especially if the water's a little brackish, they'll eat it. Anything that even looks like a crustacean, I think, will get eaten. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a Dumbell Gold 3mm, which is quite small, but it's big enough to serve the purpose here. We're talking shallow water. And the only thing that this dumbbell is going to do is it's going to make sure that my hook rides point side up. That's really the purpose of the dumbbell. The fly will sink enough. And really, I don't want this fly to sink like a stone. I don't know if you guys have ever seen crabs like as they're just drifting in the water. Sometimes they look like they're suspended in the current. If I'm fishing for redfish and I come across a bunch of small tarpon, this will work equally as well. So I don't want it to be super fast sinking. Plus, I don't necessarily want to put a weed guard in this one. So this will help me not have to use a weed guard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half a strand of Crystal Flash Silver and I'm going to fold it over a few times, at least twice. And I'm just going to go ahead and attach this to the back of my hook. And it may not even be visible, but if it is visible, it'll just give me that little bit of extra flash. Because around this crystal flash, and that's fine right there. It's nothing, like I said, it may not even get seen. Because around it, I've taken a piece of Marabou. I've actually taken one cream color and one brown color. And I've kind of just twisted them up inside my fingers here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on the back of the hook. And I don't really want it to be very long. So we're going to give it a couple of wraps. And now I'm going to look at my length, which I think is a little too long right there. I'm going to draw it in. And I guess that's okay right there. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this tight. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap the body. For a hook, I'm using a Ahrex hook. The NS115, I'm pretty sure it's called, yes. It's a saltwater hook, size 2. And for thread, I'm using 6.0 Vivis. And any good, strong, medium, 100 denier, in this case 6.0 Vivis, any good, strong thread will do. And what I'm going to do is I'm just using this Vivis thread right now to get it all going. But once I start working on the crab body, I'm going to switch to monofilament. God, you gotta be careful not to grab the point like I just did there. So I am going to go ahead and give this a little tie off. And now I'm gonna switch to my monofilament. I can give it a half hitch. Half hitch is good enough. Give it 2 half hitches. Yep, and I can cut this thread off. So for the body of this crab, what do I have? I have pre-prepped a couple of, one clump. It's one big clump, but I have 3 colors blended in. I have a glass minnow, which is like a cream color. I have an olive, which is called Perch. And I have a gray, which is actually called gray, of this crystal flesh. And you see my clump, if I pull it tight, you see the clump is not thick. And that's really what I'm going for. I'm going for a thin clump. So I'm going to go ahead and use this in about maybe 1.5 inch pieces, not long, because you end up trimming a lot of this away. So I'm going to go ahead and start my mono thread, just regular mono. And the reason I use the mono is because the body is transparent. This way the only thing that you'll see is the crystal flesh. I'm going to just moisten the marabou tail. And now I'm going to bring my thread back to maybe 1/8 of an inch, or say a little over 1 millimeter from the actual where the tail begins. And like I said, I'm going to cut a piece about, I don't know, 1.25 inches, a little more than 1 inch. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on top of the hook. And I'm going to do this in basically a couple of X wraps. Try not to let go of that first clump. This first clump, you just mostly have to be very careful to not grab the marabou. That's like the only thing that'll hurt you. You want to make sure that you don't grab that marabou tail. And just tie it in nice and hard, just like that. And once you feel good that it's tied in, I pull it back and I give it a couple wraps right in front of everything, just like that. Now I have this little hair clip. It's a little baby girl hair clip. And I just use it to keep everything back. I'm going to get another clump about the same length. And about, I don't know, a millimeter from the last clump. And we do the exact same process. So that ended up a little bit too far. So as you saw, it doesn't hurt to unwrap and rewrap. I want my wraps to be fairly tight to one another. Just basic X wraps. And once you have it where you like it, you bring it back. Bring everything back. And a couple wraps right in front. Perfect. Use my little hair clip again. This fly is super simple to tie. The only thing with this fly that requires any real effort is the trimming. The trimming takes a little while, and that really is depending on how much you want to trim. It's really all on how great you want this fly to look, is ultimately how much you want it to trim up nice. And again, just a bunch of X wraps here, just to keep it where we want it. And draw it all back. A couple of wraps right in front. And capture it with the hair clip. So that's 3 clumps. 4 might do it, but I might put a 5th if there's room. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can't get one more clump on there. And then I'll show you what this looks like. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a whip finish in at that spot. Then I'm going to switch thread again. And I have an option here. I can either go with a colored thread, or I can use a white thread and my marker. I'm going to go ahead and put a whip finish. I'm going to go under the dumbbell eye and put a whip finish in front of the dumbbell eye. And I think that when you use mono, because mono's round, the knots don't always hold really great. So I think it's always a good idea to put more than one knot in. I'm going to trim this up. And shall we switch colors, or should we use a marker? I say we switch colors. And I have this red that's damn near finished. So let's try and finish up this red a little bit. I don't know why. I like red in flies. And I'm going to put a little UV resin on the knot when this is done, which will really make this red pop. I'm only using red in front of the dumbbell eyes. Beautiful. A little whip finish. And this fly is basically done being tied. Got a couple of crazy fibers here. A little bit more micro-sized scissor. Nice. Okay, so now let's talk trimming. Oh, and I could show you when I'm finished here, I'll show you some other flies that I've tied where they had rubber legs and whatnot. But this is basically the fly, and you know the fly is gonna swim hook up. So what I like to do is, once I spread out all these fibers, is I like to use my fingers as a guide. So I will come in with my finger, and I like to bring back the marabou, get the marabou. Sometimes it's easier if you wet it. Get the marabou out of the way, and I use my fingers as a guide, and I'm gonna go a little bit big to start. And I'm gonna just use the curl of my thumb as a guide for the first cut. I'm gonna get my longer scissor. Careful not to cut the marabou. And I'm just gonna come in here and give this a little round shape. Just like that. And that is the first cut. Now this isn't gonna be the last cut. I'm gonna trim this just a little bit more. Like, I could see already that the front is pretty close to where I like it, but the bottom here is gonna take a little more. So now I'm gonna carefully do this again. Now, when I do this, you gotta remember, I've done a bunch of these. So I have an idea how the hook should fit in my hand, and am I cutting too much or not enough, or, you know, you gotta remember, I've done a bunch of these. So when you do this for the first time, take your time and remember that if you cut too much, you cannot put it back. So it's better to cut less and more often than it is to cut too much. See, that came out much better. That's much closer to the size that I'm looking for. Trim a little bit more here in the front. And I always use my fingers. The curvature of your fingers is a nice guide. Take a little bit more. Okay, that side looks really good. So now I'm going to trim up this other side a little bit more. Getting pretty close there. Pretty close to what I'm looking for. Close enough, I think, to show you the fly anyway. So we have a little bit of crystal flash. And then of course I have flash built into the crystal flesh. The fly itself, I think, looks fantastic. You can see how it has a definitely a very crustacean look to it. You know, whatever colors, you can definitely do this using more of a pink or an orange. I mean, there's a lot of color combos that you can go into here. I don't have anything good to show you this fly with right now, but you get an idea. This will sit in the water point up. I'm gonna take a 30-second pause, and I have to go get my UV resin, and we'll just resin up the head, and you'll see the finished product. I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. And I have my lamp and my resin. And like I was saying, the only thing that I'm going to UV is the knot. Probably put a little tiny dab over the dumbbell eye, just to make sure that it's nice and secured. And that's it. I'm going to spin it up. Not in any rush here. UV resin, it just doesn't get hard until you zap it, until you cure it. I chose not to put a weed guard on this one because I have made it so it'll swim hook side up. But I think I have one here in my box that I can show you with a weed guard. That red just pops. I love it. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe it's unnecessary, but I just think it looks great. You know, another step that I sometimes do, I didn't do on this one, is instead of using the white thread on the body, I'll wrap gold tinsel. You know, it's all on how much you want to do. You know, I personally think the fly looks good. I'm going to show you some others here. My little saltwater fly box. So here I have one, exact same fly. This one is with bead chain instead of lead. So I just used bead chain. Again, I didn't have any, there's no weed guard. And here I didn't blend the colors. And I guess I don't have another one. Gotta tie some more flies. A lot of my flies I end up giving away. But I think you get what I mean. All right, well, so you've seen the one. Okay, so you've seen the one in my fly box. This one I'm sending to South Florida, and this one has rubber legs, pumpkin color rubber legs. On this one, I do have a little gold wrap on the body, and this one has black dumbbell eyes instead of gold. But it's basically the same fly. I didn't use multicolor crystal flesh. I used one color, and then I used a marker to mark it up. So really your imagination is what's going to limit you. They're all great flies. They all catch fish. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget to have a cocktail with me. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.